Hey guys.
Hey, how's it doing, Samir?
Good. How about you?
Oh, doing good. All ready for a nice little conversation once I get my camera.
Well, I feel bad because I'm kind of reviewing everything here and I'm not a developer.
It's okay.
Um, yeah. And I'm reading the message my assistant sent and I'm like, I have very limited amount of experience with developers.
Well, that's okay. I'm not this is not the first time we've had one of those kinds of things. So looking at what you've got in your background though, I think we will find ways to have a conversation. Apologies, I'm just moving some windows around. The way we do it is we have a conversation. I'll introduce myself, Michael will introduce himself, and then I'll toss it to you to introduce yourself. And we will have a conversation that typically runs an hour-ish. Um, what your our audience is developers and entrepreneurs, people that are doing side hustles and starting businesses and things like that, as well as building out products and such. I think what we'll end up talking about, because this is something that we do touch on fairly regularly, because it's outside of the scope of what a lot of the audience is comfortable with, is the idea of of advertising and how to figure it out and how to go, make it a part of your business. Everybody knows it's there, but how to do so. And then especially, I think we'll talk about how it may be changing as the landscape is changing out there as far as where eyeballs go and ear holes go, I guess now as people listen to audio and things like that. Um, so I'll probably go through some of your standard, a little bit of your standard kind of questions. We'll just sort of see where it goes, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, my first job ever was a QA guy for a SaaS company. I worked at some SaaS. I mean, I got my marketing start at one of the most influential SaaS companies in the space at the time, and I've marketed a lot of SaaS clients, and I'm building out a massive Web3 platform now and have like a massive team of developers, but my CTO manages the majority of that. So I guess I've had those a lot of experiences, but yeah, not a developer myself.
That's all right. We'll make it work. We have had more than a couple times. We've had people come in that are not really developers per se, but then we just lean more in the business side of things.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to be the most beneficial for you and your audience at the end of the day. That's really all I care about. I
Okay.
literally have nothing to sell, nothing to pitch. Like, yeah, I just want to add value. That's it.
Perfect. That's the best kind. Am I coming through okay, Michael? Sound all good?
Yeah, sounds good. How about me?
Yep. So, all right, then we will get started here. Actually, do me a favor, Samir. How do you pronounce your last name?
Samir ElKamouny. ElKamouny.
ElKamouny. Okay,
Yeah,
Samir
ElKamouny.
ElKamouny.
Pretty
Excellent.
much how it looks, ish.
That's always the worst because I'm like, if it's like it looks, then I'm like, oh, that's too easy.
Yeah. All good. It's a tricky one.
It's,
My wife, I was like, "Are you sure you want to change from four letters to nine?"
all right, here we go. I'm gonna dive in. Three, two. Well, hello and welcome back. We are continuing our season of Building Better Foundations. We're Building Better Developers, the Developreneur podcast. We are going to have, once again, we're going to jump into an interview today. But first, I'll introduce all of us. Myself, Rob Broadhead, I'm a founder of Developreneur, also the founder of RB Consulting, where we help you assess technology and build a roadmap for success. In the world of good things and bad things, good thing is it's one of those things, it's like, hate always having two sides of the same coin, but it is this week as we're recording it. It is Thanksgiving week. Enjoy our holiday specials that you probably are hearing in between these things, which is awesome. Theoretically, I get a couple days off, get a 4-day weekend. The bad side is it's theoretically, I'm probably going to end up like, I'm just like all out to get to Thanksgiving Day, and then probably we'll end up spending some of Friday and into the weekend making up for taking a day off on Thursday. But the guy that never takes a day off can introduce himself. Michael, go right ahead.
Hey everyone, my name is Mike Kamalash. I'm one of the founders of Developer. I'm also the founder of Envision QA, where we help businesses build reliable software through custom development and expert testing. If you have software you need customized or you're just struggling with your current software stack, give us a shout at envisionqa.com. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing. Again, if the holidays are coming in, I get to spend some time with family, get to eat some turkey. Bad thing is we've got some bad weather coming in right now. Had some severe winds yesterday, and yes, I will probably be working most of this holiday.
And our guest today is Samir ElKamouny. And he is with, well, I'll let him introduce himself and who he's with and give us a little bit of your background.
Well, appreciate you guys for having me. I these days just call myself a serial entrepreneur, I suppose, kind of doing a couple different things, and everything I'm obsessed with these days is wealth creation and preservation. So for individuals, for creators, for brands, you name it, I've got some interesting solutions for everybody out there. So, but yeah, lengthy background in marketing and sales and SaaS and lots of interesting things. Now I'm heavy in crypto and Web3 and a bunch of fun stuff. But regardless, I'm excited to be here. This week's been great so far. F1 was here last weekend. I'm in Vegas, so that was super fun. Great time. And I've been having some friends, been invited to some Friendsgiving stuff, gonna have some Friendsgiving stuff. Probably the only bad thing is I don't really eat that much meat, so all my friends that are gonna come over for Friendsgiving are not gonna have any turkey unless they bring it themselves.
Well, you can get a lot of potatoes and such, I guess, whatever to meet that. It's good to hear somebody that enjoys the F1 there at Las Vegas. I was there 2 weeks ago, and all I heard was complaints from the drivers about how it messed up all of the traffic and all the patterns and things like that. Every
Oh
Uber
yeah.
driver was like, I can't wait till this goes. And they said it's going to take another 3 months to tear it down. But it was fascinating driving around in the middle of, I guess, on the F1 track, as it were, as we were going around there. So
Yeah.
definitely good times there.
Super fun.
I'm going to dive right in with one actually wasn't even on my radar as something to talk about when we first stepped into this, but serial entrepreneur. I love it. I sort of feel like I am one. I think there's more than a few people out in the audience that are that way, where you're just constantly like you've got another product, you've got another company idea, you got another service. How do you, in your experience, how do you? I guess there's two things: is how do you distinguish between if you've got more than one going on at a time, and if not, like how do you find like a stopping point and stepping into the next one? How do you transition from one enterprise into the next one?
Great question. Really great question. I appreciate that question too, because I feel like I see too often gurus, let's call them gurus, kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. Sort of one, let's build as many passive opportunities as we can. And if you don't have 10 passive income streams, what are you doing? And then on the other hand, the other ones are just like, if you just doubled down on the one thing and didn't get distracted by the five other things, then you'd probably be 10x further along than you are. And somehow I think I try to subscribe to both, but I think it's really important to stay singularly focused on whatever you are really good at and bringing that to market or to the next phase or to whatever it looks like for you. And then from there, either hand it off, build systems, do something that allows that to either continue to grow, have other team members take care of it, become passive, whatever it is. And so for me, I definitely sort of take a little bit of the, sort of crawl, walk, run approach at first. Just, okay, dip my toes in this, make sure it makes sense. I love market research. I love obsessing over sort of who's the ideal customer profile, what are their pains and fears, what can we find out in the market? Is there a good product market fit? How is this going to differentiate in the market and stand out? If I can't pull out those things, then it's pretty much a non-starter for me. I was raised by what I call an ideapreneur as a father, and so I learned from that the best ideas in the entire you can have the best ideas ever. Execution is everything. And so that's really what I obsess over is making sure that we are executing at the utmost degree that we can. And yeah, I just hire people who are smarter than me, that especially in areas that I'm not great at, and let them sort of take the charge. And that's usually how I'm able to accomplish way more than I would either alone or me, spearheading that charge.
So is that really where it sounds like now that's like really your life story a little bit is that you saw, you had your dad, you had that experience and he had a lot of great ideas, but now you're in the whole marketing, which, very often it's like the best ideas are only best if people actually know they're out there and things like that, which, sort of is the simplified way of advertising and marketing is like, how do you get people, how do you go out there and reach people and say, hey, this is out there? And so does that actually, I guess, really into that first question, does that leave you really sort of, I guess for lack of a term, sort of front loaded in a company is really what you bring in when you're starting an enterprise is doing that market research. Is it valid? Is it viable? How do we reach to a market? And then it's sort of almost by itself. Once you can lay that in front of people, you say, hey, here's a roadmap, go do it, and you're ready to go on to the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally, one of the ventures I'm starting right now, I started it with a few dollars of ad spend just to test the market and see if I could produce some leads that would be interested in it or not. And there's nothing to sell. There's nothing, right? It was just very informational. Is this something that you feel like you need, or there's something in the market? And also just had as many phone calls as I could. And I'm a very good networker, so networked with the appropriate people in the high up positions to understand, right? I'm a musician trained, but I've been not in the music world for a decade, and I'm pretty much going after the music world pretty hard. And so I said, okay, let me find the appropriate people to ask these questions to that know the market way better than me, that have been in the market for decades, that work with some of the biggest artists. Is this a real problem or not? Like, it really tell me what's really going on here. And yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. And so if I can do any kind of market research or market testing, I love that. And I think a lot of people shy away from that so often. They're like, oh, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be this incredible creative or this incredible, oh, my product has to be completely done. Or I was like, just test it. Spend $5 a day, run a couple tests, ask people to leave comments of what they think, or you don't have to send them to a landing page. You could do crafty different things to just sort of see, is this messaging resonating with people? I just built a simple landing page by myself that I think anyone with any no technical skills could do, and just fill out a form if it's something you're interested in. And I was getting leads for $2. So I said, okay. And it wasn't just great marketing because it was very simple, archaic. Just, is this something you'd be interested in? So, yeah.
I've tried that approach many times in the past, and I've had mixed results with that. So how would you tell someone just trying to test the market the first time? How would you kind of guide them or give them the direction to kind of go through the AdSense stuff? Like throwing up a page, marketing, that stuff, it's pretty straightforward, talking to people. But it's always kind of that digital marketing, testing the waters there that gets a little murky. Even for me, I have to kind of reach out to other marketing people I know to help me with. I just can't grasp it. Can you simplify it for those that maybe don't understand it or just have a hard time testing it?
Yeah. Well, so for me, what I'm always looking for is sort of the benefits that I'm bringing to the market. Are those things that people really like need, and are they interested in? And sort of always kind of maybe tying those benefits to some kind of feature or something like that to see if this is a solution that they're genuinely interested in. And I almost test those as hooks. I try to make them engaging, of course, and try to make them, clickbaity in a way if I'm really going hard on the advertising front. But if I'm really just trying to test the idea or test the concept, for this instance, it was, it's like musicians and some problems that I thought were rampant in the music world, especially for people who are signed, and then concerns people had who weren't signed. And so those are just questions I was pretty much asking. Like, hey, if you're an unsigned artist, I'm assuming you have these three problems. Is that true or not? And if you had a solution that solved that in this way, is it something that you'd be interested in? And if so, grab the link, give me your email, and would love to chat with you. And so sometimes I think it's trying to be almost as straightforward as possible, but still being really clear about sort of the problem and the solution that you're trying to solve. Obviously, we've all watched Shark Tank plenty of times to know like they love it when you're solving a real problem. But and I understand sort of the question that you're asking too, Michael, because I feel like if we, a lot of times, especially as the developer or the person who created it, it's very difficult for us to even get the 20,000 foot view, right? We become practitioners of what we're doing. We become doctors, of this area. And so that's sometimes the hardest part I find when I've worked with, other entrepreneurs and other founders is that I just need to try to get them to come back to the 20,000 foot view to just come up with a couple different key points to then just test in the market. And then that can be either having some call to action that I want them to do, and then I could measure that call to action. Another one could be just getting comments and asking people to comment their opinion. That can be incredible. And then the other thing is just scouring the internet. Like go to Reddit, like go and read other reviews, go and read other comments on on the same kind of topic or problem. Reddit could be your best friend. You could find pure gold in Reddit and really kind of find people's unfiltered opinions, if you will. And that can help a lot as well. And you don't even, it doesn't cost you anything, obviously, to do those things or to reach out to someone or to schedule a call with someone and say, hey, can I just pick your brain on this thing? And you'd be surprised how many people will respond, even really high ups that you thought would never, CEOs of massive companies, you name it, a lot friendlier than you think most of the time.
Gotcha. So you kind of went out and actually you do the social marketing, not so much the AdSense marketing. So you actually go out. So this is more of that, yeah, that social networking where you're talking to people, you're getting engaged, trying to find your audience and figure out if the problem you're trying to solve is a real problem that the market you're trying to address is something they need. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
probably
And I think you
butchering
could
that,
do
but
both. I think you can do both. I think the social side is nice because it can protect you, right? It doesn't cost you anything necessarily, and it can protect the brand if you're like, oh, I don't want anybody to know what I'm doing yet. Okay, totally understand that. Have some private conversations. But if you have the opportunity, right? I had some hypotheses that I just wanted to know, are these accurate or not? I want the market to tell me. And if I can get a couple hundred people to raise their hand, okay, we got something here.
So your company is fetching funnels, so I guess we'll dive into that little part, no pun intended, I guess, of like how do you see because funnels have been for those of us that a lot of us technology wise have built funnels in a sense, at least the apparatus without necessarily the I guess the content and the branding and some of those kinds of things are part of a funnel. So what do you see as sort of like the ideal structure of a funnel?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. I feel like it's very dependent on the business and the business model and the product set and whatever it is. I know, there's a lot of developers that are potentially listening and a lot of softwarepreneurs and yeah, a lot of let's call it digital products, probably potentially more than physical products. And so at the I think there's usually two or three things is the question is, do you have to educate your client heavily or not? If you have to educate your client heavily, like they don't know that this is a thing that they don't know that they need, right? If we're a CRM, everybody if someone's looking for a CRM, they pretty much know they need a CRM now. They're just trying to figure out which CRM is the right solution for them. And the differences between them, et cetera. So then you right get in front of them in that way, get comparisons and get really great ways to go about it. But you're doing lead gen at the end of the day for that, or you're trying to book a demo, or you're trying to do something like that, right? And so you're always trying to figure out what the conversion note is. And often, right, it is a lead or a call or a free trial or, maybe someone signing up for the service. If the service is more than $1,000 a month, I'd very highly recommend enforcing a sales team or some sort of point of contact because it's going to be very difficult to get people to convert at that price point. And you're just probably leaving a lot of money on the table. So in that instance, it would just be trying to book calls and do instances like that, right? And so I think the place where we get stuck, or a lot of people get stuck in sort of maybe funnel versus website, is website feels very informational and choose my own journey, where funnel is more, I'm choosing the journey for you. You could kind of only go in one or two directions that I sort of allow you to go in. So those, creates opportunities to upsell or downsell or to cross sell or to do different things. And that's kind of what I think of most people thinking of as a traditional, maybe online funnel. What I think of as funnel is everything, pretty much from the very first point of brand introduction to the conversion event that's happening, whether that's online or offline. And then I'm looking for holes across that entire funnel. Where can I increase conversions, leads, anything, right? And click through rates, you name it. And all I'm looking at is sort of what is the conversion I'm trying to get at each point of an event. So if it's coming from an ad, I'm trying to improve the click-through rate maybe. If it's a landing page, maybe I'm just trying to get them to go to the next page, or I'm trying to get them to fill out a form. If it's a free trial, right, trying to get them to sign up for the free trial, whatever it is. And so that's really the biggest points that we're always trying to optimize. And sometimes having a website that is super informational and they can choose their own journey sometimes can be a little overwhelming for people because we don't want to go read a bunch or figure it out. And so that is the biggest objection you're usually trying to handle, is just making sure that they can cut through the noise. They can really see what makes your product or service amazing and why should I be interested in you. And if I can't figure that out in like 5 seconds of interacting with your brand, there's a problem that you need to solve. And yeah, and so that's kind of how I'm usually really thinking about these things. And if you take that 20,000 foot view, try to put those glasses on, sometimes you can find opportunities that are sort of bottlenecking the business, if you will.
So where do you find our typical issues that now, a lot of this you've done, so you're in there from the start, but maybe with the other companies or other owners and entrepreneurs and such that we work with, where do you are there typical failures that you see with it that they fail to consider as part of putting up a funnel and building the brand and that kind of piece? So there's some things that are weaknesses that are I guess we'll say like common holes that as sort of allows people to fall out of the funnel.
Don't copy Apple. Everybody always wants to be Apple. And I understand they've got a beautiful website and they invented, they were one of the first ones to do parallax and to do these cool website things, but you're most likely not Apple or Apple's size. So if that's the case, you have to do the appropriate things that are necessary for your business. And I think that's a problem I see time and time and time again. And it's rampant in the SaaS industry, where so often SaaS websites are the most boring websites ever. Sorry for anybody out there that's got a boring SaaS website, but there's opportunities to spice it up. And I love the idea of always really taking a look at the customer journey and thinking of it in the sense of, your website is a guide to their journey. And if your website doesn't guide them through that customer journey, then that's sort of the biggest problem. And really making sure that, yeah, you're not kind of falling susceptible to those. Well, I just want it to look really pretty, but it's not, but there's just no clear call to actions. You're making it more difficult for me to just get in touch with you. And you're like, well, I want to look bigger than I am. And that's sometimes the biggest downfall I see with brands so often. Kiss Metrics was a really, really big, you know, brand that did this. I want to be careful calling them a big brand. They were a client of ours for a long time. They had more website traffic than almost any client I ever had, but it was all unqualified. They were incredible at marketing and incredible at getting the brand out there, but all this traffic was looking for things and reading and digesting content that had nothing to do with what they actually offered. And so while everybody knew their brand and everybody knew who their name was in the marketing world, I didn't know a single person paying for their software. And we had to figure out how to completely like reposition the entire brand and software solution to cut through all of the noise as being this amazing everything for everybody solution and just dial it down to like we do one thing incredible for one type of client, and then we were able to like 10x the lead volume, 10x the demos that they were getting to the point where they had to hire more guys to book more demos and everything else. And we actually were reducing the traffic right in that, but it was kind of cleaning it up in a way, if that makes sense, right? And just being really thoughtful about only retargeting key pages and key areas that we knew are more closely related to their customer. And I think that's a problem that so many of us make too, right? Is when we do try to be everything for everybody. I've made that mistake myself. And so it is, if you could cut through that noise, add on features to them later, but just get them in for sort of like that one thing that you do better than anybody else.
Well, that's actually a really good segue into some of the interesting changes in the marketplace, in the digital landscape, as it were. I'd love to get your thoughts on, or the idea of sort of like that idea of being everybody and everyone, or for a while everybody was like they just wanted likes, they just wanted like, but likes don't do squat if it doesn't convert to something useful. And an interesting thing that is how the marketing landscape a little bit has changed when you look at things like you used to have, like, television, you had a couple of stations, and if you were on the networks, and great, you saw there was a lot of eyeballs, or if you were in radio, there were a couple of huge markets and still, I guess, they own a couple and you're everywhere. Or if you're on a website, if you get on the Apple website, probably a lot of people are going to see you, at Google. But now there's been this proliferation of, you have your big tier, influencers and stuff like that, your Joe Rogans and all those kinds of people. But then you've got like this, you got a next tier, and then you've got this, the what I'll call like that bottom third tier, where you've got sort of what you're talking about is you've got these people that are, influencers, and they may only have, a few thousand people here or there that follow them, but they're devoted. They're, it happens to be the influencer that does, I don't know, grape jelly, and they don't have a ton of people, but the people that are like follow the grape jelly guy and girl just are, avid supporters. And so how do you see that changing maybe some of your approach, or does it, or is it still something that's just sort of like that? It may look different, but it's actually just the same thing, maybe rebranded.
I love working with influencers and getting influencer marketing, sort of what you're talking about, working with individuals that have some kind of influence, let's call it, right? They have some kind of follower base. I'm looking at that in very specific ways though, and it's sometimes maybe a little bit less traditional than most people are really looking for those things. Now, what you're talking about is, yeah, there are very large influencers, very well-known influencers, and there's also micro influencers, sort of those ones that don't have a big following, but they are very influential. I could give you tons of examples where we blew up brands only working with micro influencers because sometimes they do have a stronger voice or more influence over less people. A good example was we did a campaign for Hunter Boots, and we reached out to a bunch of young women in college and sent them a pair of boots. Now they don't have a big following, but you know who their following is? All their other girlfriends in college, other guys in college, right? And so then they could get, a dozen plus people to pretty much influence them to purchase this product. One of those was our best campaigns. And we just ended up working with like a couple hundred, it's really small influencers, if you will. Now, in the tech scene, I think it's really interesting where often we can utilize an influencer almost more as like a PR push, where PR very traditionally, I'm not actually really looking for an ROI. I'm looking at how much can I leverage this PR later to then drive more, either brand awareness, social proof, whatever it is, right? And so you see this a lot of times well, I think all of us are geeks and nerds here. So, right, I think good example is like computer gear, where we see it really often, right? We see that new computer mouse or whatever it is, and you go to the website, and then all of a sudden it's like there's a video review from from tech YouTuber that we follow. I never saw that video. I didn't come to the website because of that YouTuber, but because I see that YouTuber on the website, it's giving more validation to me saying, oh, this is probably a really good product if so and so was talking about it. And so, so how you leverage that, I think, is the biggest piece of it. Very often in the brand world where we're, selling physical goods, what direct to consumer brands and what have you, we want to work with influencers just to get user generated content and just get those videos to run as ads. It's not to get an ROI from that influencer saying, oh my gosh, this is the coolest product ever. Yeah, maybe we get a couple sales and that's great. But usually with influencers, I'm not looking for a direct ROI from them promoting the video or releasing the video, because I think that time has sort of come and gone. You still can make a lot of money, and there still are opportunities to do that and make money. But I think when you're looking at it with that lens, it becomes more singularly focused and harder to get that ROI. And you may or may not work with an influencer that could have actually positively impacted your brand more, because you're trying to really track an ROI from it. But just getting good content sometimes can be the gold at the end of the day. And you just kind of pay them, you give them the software for free, or you give them the tool for free, or you give them the product for free. And in exchange, you get this great video. And then how you leverage that video can sometimes just be a much higher multiplier than the actual, oh, I got a couple thousand views or whatever it is.
Mhm. And that is where we were going to pause our conversation with Samir. It continues to go well, as I say, pencils down. But get ready next episode, because it's going to be pencils up. Time to take notes again. Definitely drops a couple of little products and tools and some things like that. Little notes along the way that I think you definitely will find useful. I will probably go back myself and catch a couple of these that I didn't write down the first time. But we also will have links in the show notes where we can for these things, particularly how to get a hold of him. Very helpful. Appreciate so much his time, and spend a little time with us. And it just, sometimes there's just people that are really good people that are trying to help everybody else wherever they can. Samir happens to be one of those people. So if there's anything here where I'm sure he would love to help you. If there's any way you can help him, definitely, pay it forward where you can. That being said, go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time.